Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to the folks in the room and welcome to our Zoom audience here at the North Carolina Botanical Garden. I'm Joanna Massey-Lalikas. I'm the Director of Learning and Community Engagement here at the Garden, and we're happy to have you with us today for this special presentation. So we will have a period of Q&A at the end of this session. So for the folks on Zoom, if you could use the Q&A tool for that, that will be very helpful. And in the room, I'll carry a microphone around with me to you if you raise your hand so that the folks on Zoom can hear your questions as well. And David Michaud was raised in southeastern Connecticut and received undergraduate degrees at Three Rivers Community College and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He has served as the Program and Engagement Coordinator at the North Carolina Botanical Garden since 2021, after previously holding part-time roles as at the Garden and the UNC's Department of Music. He coordinates the garden's adult education programs, including certificate programs, field trips, lectures, and classes, as well as the volunteer program. And in his free time, he enjoys live performances, traveling, and wandering trails. So David, come on up, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thank you, Joanna, and thank you all for being here in the room today. Thank you also to Carolina Engagement Week for the opportunity to present. This invitation, I think, came back in October or so to highlight events and partnerships with external organizations. So I was really hoping that we could share not just me here on behalf of the garden, but Kevin Melvin with the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. So we do regret that he couldn't make it today, but hopefully me alone can do justice to this wonderful program that we offered last year. I'd also like to thank our events team for getting this room set up so lovely for us today. As Joanna mentioned, I've been at the garden for just under 8 years or so, and I've survived 6 years of summer camp registration and hope to handle many, many more. For those of you unfamiliar with the garden, I'd like to share a little bit about our mission and vision. Our mission is to cultivate connections between plants, people, and place through science, engagement, and conservation. And our vision, we envision a world where people appreciate diversity in all its forms and understand that plant biodiversity is essential to life on Earth. And this mission and vision statement really just came out of a reworking of how the garden is going to move into the future. Our previous mission statement did speak to this to some extent. It was around the understanding and appreciation of native plants, which I think is still displayed in this, but we're really focusing on that connection between people, plants, and place. We need to recognize that humans are part of nature. We're not separate from nature. We all have to work together. And so through program series, we try to highlight plants that might inspire people, engage people to be more involved with protecting our environment and being stewards of the land. Some brief history of the garden. The garden's founding, I guess you could say, was back in 1903, back when William Chambers Coker was hired. This is when the Coker Arboretum on campus was established. It's also the same year that the Marching Tar Heels were established on campus. I was a member of the marching band, and warning now, there are some marching band metaphors coming up in this presentation. Yeah, my background, you may have seen, does not include botany or plant science. So it's odd that I'm standing up the front of the botanical garden giving a presentation, but we thank you for being here and bearing with me. Over the years, we've acquired quite a bit of land, including where we're standing here today. The initial 72 acres for the nature trails and the site of the botanical garden were donated back in 1952, and then the nature trails that are behind the garden opened a little over a decade later in 1966. On the bottom right of the screen is the one of the first Coker arbors at the Coker Arboretum. If you've driven along Cameron Avenue recently, you'll see that there's some fencing up now as we're installing the 5th arbor of that site. The fourth iteration was installed in 1997, donated from that graduating class. It had some structural issues and safety issues, so we made the decision to take it down with bigger and better coming soon. We hope to have that done by the end of this year. Getting into a little bit more recent history, we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the garden back in 2016 after acquiring several more properties. And I guess I misspoke about Coker Arboretum. Maybe that transitioned hands, but that was established on campus back in 1903, and I think the Botanical Garden took acquisition of it in '82. We also manage Mason Farm Biological Reserve, which is a large swath of land just down Old Mason Farm Road if you take a right out of the parking lot here. And then closer to campus, Battle Park and Forest Theater are just adjacent to Country Club Road and some of the adjacent neighborhoods to campus. So we're delighted to manage these lands. In total, it's about 1,200 acres or so. Yeah, just over 1,200 acres. This map, there's a slight addition now down by the Stillhouse Bottom Nature Preserve, which my cursor is not getting over there, but we've acquired since this map was created. But here's our current numbers, and you know the gardens change every single day. So we hope you'll make visits throughout the year. We are free to visit. All of our sites are free. Some are private, but we do have a list of our accessible lands on our website. So we encourage you to get out there and be in nature. It's truly inspiring. It's a very healing space, and we want to get you connected. Here at our main site, we have 12 acres of an enclosed garden and a deer fence, in addition to the 70 or so acres of nature trails behind the garden. Within our natural garden collection, most of our plants are native to the southeast United States, and those habitats that are in bold there are those primary landscapes that feature the plants that are native to North Carolina. But you'll also find southeastern native plants all throughout the garden, as well as displays to show you how you can incorporate native plants into your own landscape designs, ways that herbs are incorporated into gardens. We show how certain plants that are native to the Southeast are related to other plants worldwide. So it's an inclusive display, if you will, of all the wonderful biodiversity in the Southeast. I mentioned Coker Arboretum already. I did not show you the one beautiful construction that's happening right now. But as I mentioned, we're installing that arbor and hope to have it ready by the end of the summer. I'd like to move on to a little bit about what I do here at the garden. I'm on our learning and community engagement team, which oversees the educational programs, if you will. So throughout the year, we host many school groups. In the summer, we offer Camp Flytrap, which is about 10 weeks of summer camps offered to ages 4 through 10. We offer certificate programs in native plants and botanical art and illustration. We've got a pretty robust program in both of those fields, led by both in-house and contracted instructors. I'll talk about our exhibits because that's the bulk of this presentation. We've led field trips, hikes, excursions to nearby sites and throughout the state, really. A couple weeks ago, I was able to go out east to a birding excursion near Plymouth, North Carolina, which I had not previously heard of. I had only known of Plymouth Rock up in Massachusetts. So it's nice to know that there's other Plymouths out there. Our director, Damon Waite, is an adjunct faculty member of the biology department. He leads every spring semester a upper level biology class on managing a conservation garden. And that's been well received over the past few years. And then our doctoral staff will mentor several PhD master's students at UNC and many honors students in the undergrad programs as well. As far as community engagement, also under that learning and community engagement umbrella are 3 other organizations or sites, if you will. Our therapeutic horticulture program is led by the fabulous Emily Weaver. These programs teach practitioners how to incorporate using plants in healing, whether that's physical healing, mental healing, whether that's actually touching the plants and you know, engaging with them, or just being in nature. That's all under that therapeutic horticulture umbrella. So we train through both a hybrid year-long program, August through May. We offer a once monthly weekend class for folks in these fields, social working, nursing, et cetera, to learn TH practices. But then we also have an online model that's organized through North Carolina State University that teaches folks these same practices without having to come to the garden. So that's an international program, and we've been thrilled with the growth that that's had over the few short years that Emily's been here. But that TH program has existed in the garden for decades at this point. Also on campus are Carolina Community Garden and Edible Campus UNC. The former Carolina Community Garden provides, it's a quarter-acre production garden that provides food to the lowest paid workers on campus, which are the housekeepers. Sorry about this. And then Edible Campus UNC is a really student-led group. There's about 10 satellite campus throughout UNC's campus, and that's where students are able to pick food as they wander between classes. Students really maintain those beds. We have one staff member, one paid staff member who is employed by the garden to oversee Edible Campus, but otherwise it's a really student-led program. So as you walk around campus and see those wonderful plantings and raised beds, know that that's a byproduct of NCBG. Additionally, we have a very deep partnership with the American Indian Center on campus, and we're currently developing the American Indian Cultural Garden. It is kind of hugging the existing Carolina Community Garden, which is in the center of that image on your screen, and then the light green around it is the cultural garden, and that installation is going tremendously. I haven't been by in a couple of weeks, but last time I went by, it's just looking stellar. I'm not sure the exact timeline of when that's set to open, but it should be soon. It's going to be a very, very beautiful space that has been long desired by both American Indian students and staff at UNC. And not only will it support those folks, it'll support community members who just need a safe space to be in nature and be connected to these plants that are meaningful to these indigenous communities. So all that said, I'd like to move on to why we're here today, which is the Saving Our Savannas program that we led last spring, January through June 2024. Here on the screen are some previous exhibition themes that we've hosted at the garden, including saving our wildflowers, saving our birds, and saving our pollinators. And what you'll probably notice about these themes is that they are very broad, and that's intentional. We want them to, from a programming standpoint, we want to be able to feed in a lot of different programs from a lot of different perspectives, from art classes to field trips to gardening classes supporting these populations. The more narrow you get with a theme, the harder it gets to schedule programs around that, which is not to say that's not a challenge worth embarking on, but I like this more macro approach, which really frees up what we're able to offer. These are garden-wide exhibitions. They're not just housed within the Learning and Community Engagement Department, where we're so reliant upon our communications team, which is here in the room with us, our development team to find event sponsors so that we can fairly compensate the folks that we're bringing in to facilitate programs. Again, our communications team to really promote these programs and create the wonderful displays. Our horticulture and conservation teams are also instrumental in providing content for these programs. And if they themselves aren't able to provide content, they have the connections to get us the folks that we need. So as I said, these exhibitions are garden-wide. It takes a team to make them happen. But I'd like to share a little bit more about how we landed on what we did last year. So Saving Our Savannas, as I mentioned, was offered January through June 2024. We, in initial planning phases of the series, we thought the longleaf pine might be the species that we wanted to focus on. And I remember early planning phases, we started off calling it Saving Our Longleaf Pine. But then upon further reflection, we're like, well, you know, the longleaf pine supports a lot of species. And if we just say longleaf pine, maybe that won't catch the audience that we're going to want and desire for this series. So we landed on Saving Our Savannas, SOS, if you will, and then had the tagline, Stories of the Longleaf Pine. So this was a 6-month series, as I mentioned. The longleaf pine is significant to North Carolina. That was a big reason on why we did want to keep that name in the title. The Order of the Longleaf Pine, if you're not familiar, is the highest civilian honor in the state. And there's a toast that recipients are able to lead that begins with "Here's to the land of the longleaf pine." Also, North Carolina is the Tar Heel state, and the longleaf has a significant contribution to that terminology, Tar Heel, that we're so familiar with here at UNC. So again, we wanted to keep the topic broad as we could to engage as many perspectives and events as we could. So I'll highlight a few of what we tried to highlight through our series. So the longleaf pine does have a lot of educational value. It offers a rich educational platform to teach conservation and the ecological role of fire. You'll see some burning in that resilience area of this slide. Those are controlled burns. Burning has happened naturally and human-induced as a way to control ground level crops. It allows those plants that are lower to the ground access to sunlight when the taller brush is burned away. And that's essential to this longleaf pine community. Longleaf pines require fire to be self-sufficient. So it's important that this practice of burning is informed, and we're getting the word out that it's a good thing sometimes when there's these fires in the wild. The biodiversity connection with longleaf pine, I've touched upon. There's so many species that are supported by the longleaf pine, both animals and plants. So we were able to offer programs around the red cockaded woodpecker, which nests in these trees, as well as one of our speakers brought a stuffed fox squirrel, which was really cool to see in person. And then we've highlighted some of the ecosystem restoration that's happened as a result of people being involved and informed about longleaf pines. With North Carolina's history, you know, so much of this land was clear cut for agricultural purposes, and we lost a significant portion of our longleaf forest, which was a huge economic drive back in the 1800s. Additionally, I touched on the naval store industry and the original Tar Heels. So this series really allowed us to lift up the cultural heritage of the tree and ecosystem as it connects to indigenous people around the Southeast. There's many tribal artwork that's based on not only the tree, but the pine cone. The Lumbee tribe insignia is actually based on the bottom of a longleaf pine cone, which has that whole Fibonacci sequence, which is really beautiful. Longleaf pines were also heavily needed for our national defense back in the 1800s. That naval store industry, a lot of the materials for shipbuilding came directly from the longleaf pine. So it was a huge economic drive for North Carolina back in the day. And I cannot give the story of the real Tar Heels as well as our speaker Earl Iams did, so I'm going to share a brief clip of his talk that he offered in April or so. Earl Iams is a fantastic partner that was on our steering committee. He works for the North Carolina Museum of History. He's also a farmer and somehow he has free time. But you'll just see how passionate he is about these stories. Let's see if I can get this going.
From the ground,
It gets a little louder.
that would have been left over by the real Tar Heel.
All right. Well, I'm hearing that we're having some sound issues, so I'll try to fill in what he's sharing about. He had a small, I don't even know how to describe it. It was a dried up sap essentially, which was actually a fuel source that was burned and provided light. But he also talked about how the sap could be melted down, and that's what connected the wood in the shipbuilding industry. So that's what prevented water from seeping through and sinking ships. But all that material came from longleaf pine materials. I strongly encourage you. There is a link to the recordings of these talks. Earl and all the plant people can do a much better job talking about this stuff than I can. So I'm not going to go any further on that. But I would love to highlight the fabulous team that we had involved in this series. So going from left to right are Julie Moore of the Venus Flytrap Champions, Debbie Crane, who recently retired from the Nature Conservancy in North Carolina. That's our director, Dr. Damon Waite, in the suit. Marissa Carmi is the representative of the UNC American Indian Center. Emily Oglesby in the green hat is our communications and exhibits coordinator here at the garden. Next to her is Chris Laloya, who is our Habitat Gardens curator. She manages the site that houses our carnivorous plants, as well as all of those habitats that highlight North Carolina's gardens, or habitats rather. Next to her is me. Next to me is Mike Kuntz, our director of conservation programs. Beside Mike is Joanna Maskalikis, who did our introduction today, and our director of learning and community engagement. And then to her left is Earl Iams, that historian and farmer. And on the screen are two additional team members that weren't able to be there in person. Kevin Melvin is our representative, the historian for the Lumbee tribe. And then Sarah Crate represented the Longleaf Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization that really highlights and promotes the replanting and restoration of the longleaf ecosystem. So some of these partnerships existed prior to the Saving Our Savannas program, which was instrumental in getting the crew together. So I won't read all these out again, but we had 6 existing partnerships, and then we were able to create some new partnerships through this series, which was wonderful, and we look forward to continuing to engage with them into the future. That's the beautiful part of offering these partnership programs, is you get connected to so many wonderful individuals doing similar work, and they have additional connections that can just keep on engaging our audience, and we can continue to support them as they have needs. We can take our audience to them as needed, because, like I said, they have a lot of the same values and missions that the garden has. We also could not have run this series without the financial support of several groups and individuals, so we're so thankful for their contributions. They made sure that we were able to fairly compensate the contractors that we brought in to lead these programs. In many of the presentations, we heard this theme that the longleaf pine is a tree for the future, and that's so true. And I can't say it better than these slides do. This is one of the panels from our Saving Our Savannas educational exhibit, which was created by Emily Oglesby in tandem with support of that steering committee. But with this changing climate that we're living in, we're experiencing more and more droughts and hurricanes, and the longleaf pine is maybe the best designed tree for resiliency to these things. Longleaf pines develop a super long taproot into the ground, which really holds them strong as those hurricane force winds topple things around them. These trees stand strong, and as I said, they're incredible. So you'll see on the chart here just the decline of longleaf acreage, and that's just from 1935 to present is where that chart starts. So you'll see it's a tremendous decline, about 93%, I believe. But it's working to come back. You'll see quite a bit of progress has happened even in 14 years, from 3.4 million trees to 5.8 million trees. So those numbers can only continue to rise as we engage more people and get the word out. Many of our presentations did speak to how folks can get involved. Longleaf pine does not grow just anywhere. It requires a very sandy soil, so it's not like, I can just send you all home with some saplings and say, here, plant them, they're gonna do great. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. But there are ways that folks who don't own land or don't manage land can still support these efforts. So this was a slide in one of our presentations by Colette DeGarrity, just highlighting just a short list of the many groups that focus on this kind of work. All right, I told you marching band metaphors were coming. So the longleaf pine, we're going to represent as the dot of the I on this Ohio script. By itself, maybe looks a little bit goofy. It's just kind of standing there, but it supports this entire ecosystem of, we'll call the players the pollinators and the instruments of the plants. We require this multi-level of many different layers and instruments to create this blend of sound, which is the longleaf pine ecosystem. Hopefully I didn't spread that too thin. To approach the series, as I said, it's a 6-month series, and that's a lot of days to fill. So we wanted to kind of make it a little bit more manageable by breaking it down into a month-by-month theme. Again, this was an idea going into it. It didn't always work out. Some folks that we wanted to tie in for the cultural significance in March weren't available until May. So some things got shifted around. The most important thing is that we were able to offer those programs. But for the most part, the series or the programs that were offered in these months did follow these themes. So actually, prior to this, on the winter solstice of 2023, a few of us had the opportunity to go down to the Lumbee Cultural Center, where they are actually working on a longleaf restoration project. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually a patch of loblolly pine, which is the pine tree that's really taken over a lot of the longleaf populations in North Carolina. And their goal is really to burn this area, clear out what's grown there, and they're going to try to restore this to the longleaf population that it's meant to be. In January, we held our kickoff programs, which was led by Dr. Bill Owen of I think he was with the Longleaf Alliance. Forgive me if I'm mistaken there. That was here in this room. Before our current AV setup, we used to have to set up an iPad to get the speaker on the screen. Now I have a camera up in the corner of the room, which is lovely. And that was back in January, as I mentioned. In February, we talked more about fire and how longleaf pine relates to that. One of those programs was led by Lauren Farr, who is a PhD student at North Carolina State University. She does a lot of incredible research around the red-cockaded woodpecker, which is that species that resides in the trees. In March, we did some of those cultural significance programs, including a private needle gathering event with the Pembroke Girls Circle. These needles were gathered to create some indigenous crafts and other uses. In April, we were able to, once the weather got a little bit warmer, we were able to offer some more excursions. So this is a shot from the Green Swamp Preserve, which some of our team was able to visit. That's down by Wilmington, where the state's Venus flytrap population most primarily is. In May, we had some programs focused around taking action for longleaf pine communities. And this is where we saw some of those talks around organizations where folks could support. We also heard from folks that own land that have been doing longleaf restoration and some of the challenges that they had with conservation organizations kind of getting in alignment around this project. When you get to this large scale restoration of acres and acres, that's a lot of plant material that needs to be sourced, and it's a complicated process. So it was really insightful to hear from those folks that are actively doing the work. I think that was really inspiring for participants to hear. And then in June, we closed things off with what to do in the future. Where is this taking us? We closed out with steering committee member Julie Moore of Venus Flytrap Champions, who just led an inspirational talk about, you know, what we can all do moving forward. And this is just another image from a indigenous-led workshop held just before this series, but it was kind of a precursor event to the Saving Our Savannas events. By the numbers, I won't read through all of these, but we were able to offer about 60 programs in total, both in-house and some events that we promoted from our partners, including Flame Week, which those letters stand for something. I'm failed to write them down, and then Party for the Pine, which celebrates the oldest living longleaf pine in North Carolina. That's located in Weymouth Woods in Southern Pines, and it will be celebrating its 477th birthday this year. I've got a slide later on with that, with the exact details about that. Hoping to make it down this year. Additionally, we had almost 3,200 people attend events. Some attended more than one program, which was wonderful. Many of our lectures were free to attend, including this one today. So that's where we saw the bulk of our participation. But in our paid classes and tours, we also had significant numbers. Many of those programs can only accommodate 12 students or so. So that kind of gives you perspective. This is a good 24 programs or so were just those classes and tours. And then our youth team was able to engage a younger audience through drop-in discovery stations, which is what you see on the lower left side of the screen. That was set up for, I believe, 2 days. We had about 50 kids and families come up and engage with that, that display. And we hope to have several more of those this spring. I failed to mention on this slide, the community art exhibit, the call for which is up in the upper right of this slide. This was such a beautiful display. We were able to have people submit artwork that's related to the longleaf pine ecosystem. And that was on display for about 2 months in the DeBerry Art Gallery. I think through this weekend, we have our current exhibit up, which is the community bird photo exhibit. So for those in the room, I encourage you to check that out before it gets taken down. And yeah, we hope to do more of those community exhibits because it's a wonderful way to see amateur art on the walls. That gallery is often held for more professional artists, so it's nice to see engagement this way. This was the first series where we started tracking our demographics, and I will say a good portion of our audience is white and in the 50+ age range. So it was nice to see some younger faces in these talks, and these questions were asked on the registration form, and we did not tie them to any names. We gave folks the option to either not respond or respond given their preference. So that was not a required point of topic, but it was good data to have for us to know where we can improve and where we've made some leeway. In terms of online engagement, we do have several resources still available from the
exhibit. Here in the room, I have some bookmarks that have this QR code on them, but they do link to the Longleaf Saving Our Savannas landing page, which has great resources, including books, articles, and past recordings of these programs. We were able to upload 19 of the talks to our YouTube channel. Each of those are about 50 minutes or so in length, so you can fill up a full day with just Longleaf topics. Some successes from the program. It had a really extensive reach, as you'll see from this map. We missed the Midwestern or the western part of the country, but otherwise captured, and New England, I guess. I need to talk to my friends up there. But got a good bit of the country. In North Carolina, we engaged 78 of the 100 counties, which feels very successful. And then we also had 6 participants join from abroad for a variety of programs. Some of the programs weren't actually offered during the 6-month series. They were offered last fall due to some scheduling challenges, but that's okay. I think, again, the point was to get this knowledge out there, and we did that. We started planning this series in August 2023, which, if you're doing the math, was 4 months before the launch of the series. That might not have been enough time to get everything done that we wanted in terms of identifying who we wanted to speak in terms of these themes, reaching out to those people, getting responses back from those people. That all takes time, and we found ourselves in some situations where it's like, we don't have as much as we want to list right now, but we just got to promise that it's coming, and eventually it all did. We also noticed when we got some survey results back from folks that we could have had more of a focus on the economic benefits for landowners. We, in the garden, we like to think that people are good-minded and they'll do nature for the benefit of nature, but there's also people that need to make a living. We all need to make a living. So there's ways that longleaf pine can be used, especially sourcing the pine needles. Those can be sold for mulching products. There's a lot of economic benefits to growing longleaf pine if you have the land to support it. So we could have offered some more programs around that. And it's not too late to offer those programs. I mentioned those survey results. These were some of the areas that we wanted to see improvement of, and we were very pleased with these results. Several people did note that they're already engaged, so they did not say that they're aspiring to take action because they already are. So that's where we saw the lowest number of agree or strongly agree on those questions that were asked of participants. But overall, we had a really great turnout of or feedback from folks saying that they learned from this series, and they're going to take that knowledge out into the world. Also out of this series is our traveling exhibit, which for the 6 months following the series in our exhibit hall, a 8-panel display was up in the exhibit hall, but we do have a 5-panel traveling display, 2-sided, which is free to host at a site. We just ask that you pay for the cost of shipping and insurance. So if there's any UNC departments that might want to host this at your site, feel free to contact Emily Oglesby. Her information is on the Saving Our Savannas landing page. And then I'd like to just share a couple of verbal statements from participants. I won't read these out loud. And this video that you're seeing on the side is from one of the excursions that I was able to join, which highlighted some restoration work of the Great Coharie River down in Pembroke. And we also visited a farm that has quite a bit of longleaf on it. In the lower right corner is James Audubon's drawing of the red-cockaded woodpecker, which was one of those species that was highlighted several times throughout the series. And I mentioned earlier our botanical art program. In planning the series, we partner with the American Society of Botanical Artists, who hosts an annual conference around America. And in October 2023, it was hosted in Alabama, and I was just perusing the offerings, and I saw that Vincent Genero of France was offering a pen and ink workshop on the Longleaf Pine. And I was like, oh, perfect. I know who I'm going to invite for my visiting artist workshop in the spring. So on the right side is the piece that he submitted as his kind of advertisement for the program that we were able to offer. So we flew an artist in all the way from France to lead a 3-day workshop with some of our art participants, and it was such a well-received program. Only 3 days. They wish it could have been more, but they had a really great time with that instructor. So that visiting artist program does happen twice a year, and it was great that we were able to incorporate the longleaf pine into the series. This is just a little bit about our lessons learned from planning a series like this with so many partners. We realized we need to start more than 4 months in advance. We're doing a mini exhibit right now, January through April 2025, called Bird Friendly Landscapes. So some exhibits are in the exhibit hall right now around that. That mini series we started planning back in June or July or so, but for this larger series, we definitely want to start planning at least a year in advance. That's going to give us the most time to really identify who we want in the rooms, and who we want leading programs. This is just a little bit of how we met twice a month, mostly on Zoom, although we did have a couple of in-person meetings. We just connected around where our updates were, what we've learned, who turned down events, who accepted events, who suggested other people for events. It was constantly like, all right, these 3 are gonna run, this one's not gonna run, but we have 2 new ideas, so let's see what we can get from that. So it was a fun process. And really, it was that diversity of our partnerships that made this a true success. We would not have been able to host as many events as we did. We would not have been able to connect with as many people as we did if it weren't for the help of our partners. So we're so grateful for them, and we hope to continue to uplift what they're doing. We hope they'll do the same for us. And moving forward, we did participate at the Lumbee Homecoming most recently. We've also tabled at events. We've attended powwows in the past. In April, some of the garden staff will be attending the Cohary Seed Swap, which is a event that's open to the public. We also rely on these partnerships to continue to suggest speakers and programs that the garden can offer. We're a beautiful site for hosting anything around the natural world. So we welcome their feedback for future programming. We also welcome your insight around what we can offer for you. We think we think we know what our audience wants, but it's important to hear from the audience to know that we're offering exactly what you want to see offered here. And then as I mentioned, we have that beautiful partnership with the American Indian Center on campus. We're aiming to offer an annual or semi-annual Native People, Native Plants Symposium. Most recently, that was held in December. But coming up, the Longleaf Partnership Council is meeting in Clemson at the end of March. As I mentioned, that Party for the Pine, celebrating the 477th birthday of the longest living known longleaf pine, will be at Weymouth Woods on Saturday, April 5th. At the end of March, we'll be doing another kind of cultural event around the African American legacy in gardening and horticulture. That's a hybrid event that'll be hosted at the Hayti Heritage Center, and we'll also incorporate some networking, seed swaps. The night before, there's a film screening, so lots of great stuff coming up. I've reached about the end of my time. I want to save some time for questions. I want to thank Carolina Engagement Week again. And I also know that there are students participating both in the room and on Zoom that need their campus life experience credit. So you can scan that QR code on the left side to earn your attendance. And if you want to provide any feedback about this presentation, you can use the QR code on the right. So with that, I will take any questions.
All right. So if you have a question in the room, I can come to you with the microphone. And for folks online, if you would please use the Q&A tool, and I'll check in on that and share your questions with David. Yes.
Well, with all the lead time you need, do you know what's next or what's might be in the pipeline?
I don't. We've been brainstorming internally about what that series might be. You know, if we're thinking 12 to 18 months out, it's probably not going to be till at least fall 2026 at this point. But we're gladly accepting your ideas, or if one of the previous exhibitions needs a revamp, we're open to that too.
Any other questions in the room? I don't see any coming in on the chat or on the Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I love the mission statement and vision statements really speak to me. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Early on, you mentioned horticulture therapy, and I heard the word social worker in there. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what goes on here in that regard, please.
I can try. Joanna might be able to add to this too, but this therapeutic horticulture field really is designed to engage many different populations. So social workers can use the practice, therapists can use this practice, nurses can use this practice. Joanna, I may ask for you to speak this up.
So therapeutic horticulture is a community engagement program here at the Botanical Garden that we go out in community and provide direct service through therapeutic horticulture, and we also train folks to use therapeutic horticulture in their own communities. And our education programs are open to anybody, but we see a lot of folks who are already working with people come through to gain the horticultural and the therapeutic horticulture theory and practice that they can include it into what they're already doing, working with people. And that's where the comment about social workers came into play, because we do have a lot of folks in social work incorporating therapeutic horticulture into their work with people already. Does that help? You're welcome.
Thank you, Joanna. Yeah, and Emily Weaver, who manages that program, also gave a lunchbox talk on, well, several lunchbox talks actually on both the therapeutic horticulture program and some projects that have come out of it. So very inspiring and worth watching.
And those are available on our YouTube channel. If you can't find them, email David or me. We'll get you to them. Any other questions?
And if anything comes
one
up after the
online.
fact too, feel free to reach out via email, which is now on the screen.
A request, can you expand on some of the hands-on learning opportunities offered to younger participants? I'm going to go to one of our experts in the room here. Would you like to share more about what you do in our with our youth education programs? This is Cindy Fury.
Hi, yes, I'm one of the youth environmental educators. And for this particular program, we had the Discovery Station. And so there was a trifold, which I think David had a picture of, but also there was some fun art component to it where they used the pine needles to paint with. And it just so happened I had a preschool class that day. And so they all came out of my preschool class and painted, I understand. So that was a lot of fun. But just in general, we do school groups, mainly kindergarten and third grade groups. And we also have camps during the summer, but also throughout the year. when there's teacher work days. And we have story times and things like that, and those drop-in discoveries.
Thank you, Cindy, for being on the spot.
And we've also got a children's garden that's free to explore any day. We have a peacock discovery room with some activities and books for families to explore when we're not offering youth programs.
Any other questions? Nothing else online. David, thank you so much for this great presentation. And for those who are new to the garden, we hope to see you here on site. And we offer many of our programs, our lectures in hybrid format. So if you can't make it to the garden for them, you can join online. So hope you'll join us again for future programs. Thank you.
Thanks again.